This is your chance professionally to edit yourself so that what you present is the most powerful version of you possible. Welcome back to Leadership Highway. I'm Coach McCurdy. This is the Fast Track podcast to help you 10x your impact, break down barriers, and most importantly, get out of your own damn way. On this pit stop, I really want us to talk about a scenario that arises all the time. Someone asks, tell me about you, tell me about your story, tell me about a time when you're in a leadership meeting and they want you to take on a new project and someone says, well, have you ever done anything like this? Or you're looking for a promotion and you know that you're going to have that internal interview and you're trying to prepare and you're thinking, how do I talk about the things that I've done in the past in a way that isn't going to derail my future? It's really easy to do that. A lot of times we get caught up in our own mind with all the details, all the acronyms, all the mitigating circumstances around a success or a failure that we've had. And in letting those things rise to the top, we actually derail our ability to tell a story. And this is really important. A lot of times under pressure, we either become paralyzed or the opposite happens. We get what my grandfather used to call diarrhea of the mouth. Stuff just spills out. And before we know it, we have spent the 15 minutes of this valuable 30-minute conversation spilling out all kinds of junk that honestly would have been much better kept inside. So let's talk about a methodology for thinking about our life and thinking about our experiences that we can use essentially all over our life. We can use this socially. We can use it professionally. We can use this when we are networking. We can use this kind of methodology anywhere we go. And I call it how to tell your story in 6 sentences, maybe 7. So let's talk about what that looks like. Okay. So quite often we are having a conversation and somebody asks about an experience that we've had. Well, we can choose how we want to respond. And generally, I like to do it in a very simple and very positive way. There's 6 prompts if you think about it like a writing exercise. And for those of you that are cringing on here, I still want you to like, follow, and share and comment on Leadership Highway, because I promise it might feel cringeworthy right now. But one day you are going to look back and say, wow, that really worked. Hey, that was really tight. Wow, that person has got diarrhea of the mouth, and I know where I heard that. I heard that on Leadership Highway. So, and then you can send them to Leadership Highway too. Okay. When we think about a scenario, we start off with a simple prompt. There was a time when. In one sentence, can you net out the lay of the land when someone asked you to insert yourself? There was a time when there was a group that was struggling to achieve. There was a time when our forecast wasn't matching our performance. There was a time when I had competing objectives and needed to figure out which one was the top. There was a time when people don't need to know that you were tired, that there were 10 people on the team, that JoJo was upset and Janie didn't talk to Diane, and nobody needs to know those things. There was a time when, in one sentence, what was the lay of the land? What was the scenario? What was going on in the organization at the point someone thought that maybe you needed to do something? At the point someone thought you were the answer to the problem, at the point you were the solution. There was a timeline. Sounds simple, but I promise you that's where the story gets derailed. There was a time when. One sentence. If you go to 2, you better figure out a way to get it down to 1. And if you can't get it down to 1, then you need to book some time with me, because I promise I will beat you down into 1 sentence. There was a time when. This sets the stage by describing the problem at its highest level in language that generally and universally people can understand. People don't need to know the technical details. They just need to know there was a time when this problem happened at its highest level. The next sentence, I was asked to ... So there's a problem, and someone said, ooh, Erica, you look like the solution. Oh, Joe, I think you can help me. Oh, Jane, I think you could be of service. Would you please X? What were you asked to do? Were you asked to jump in and lead a team? Were you asked to help with the hiring processes? Were you asked to train up a group? Were you asked to develop a better system for identifying where we had opportunities? Were you asked to what? Because if someone's going to pay you for your time, they're probably articulating a problem or a scenario that they need to help solve. So now we've got the setting and the problem. There was a time when I was asked to. Great. There was a time when there was a group that was struggling to achieve. I was asked to see if I could help build some team cohesion and improve overall performance. Wow. Do you know if I'm talking about a military scenario? Do you know if I'm talking about an engineering scenario? Do you know if I'm talking about a banking scenario? Do you know if I'm talking about a PTA that's a shit show? You have no idea. Why? Because it doesn't matter. We have articulated a problem or situation, and we have identified the trigger that caused someone to need you to engage. Universal. There was a time when I was asked to. The next step, this is where it gets juicy. The first thing I did was, or the first thing I noticed was, ooh, why? Because when there's a problem and someone engages you, you're going to go in and most people will see something immediately that needs to be addressed. When people are asking you about your experience, they do not want to know a play-by-play of what you did over the last 18 months in grueling and mind-numbing, eye-scraping detail. They do not need to know that. They just want to know when you show up, how do you start to address a problem? Why? Because if they let you touch their problems, they damn well better feel comfortable that you're not going to screw it up right off the bat. They just want to know what to expect. That's it. This is so basic. So many times we start to go into details. We've talked about sticking at the wave tops. In one of our other podcast episodes, I highly recommend that you take a look back at that if you haven't already. But we have to stick to the high points. We have to stick to the big idea. There was a time when I was asked to, and the first thing I noticed was that there was no method in place for everyone to see what anyone else was doing. The first thing I noticed was everybody kept their office doors closed. The first thing I noticed was give that person a clue to how you think, a way to sort of lower the stress. Because if you think about it, if someone's going to take a chance on you, whether it is personally, professionally, whether it's an internal promotion, whether you decide to leave what you're doing and try something new, somebody is taking a risk on you. They're putting their time, their money, their people, their reputation behind you. And the biggest thing people worry about is if they're going to screw it up. Did they make a bad choice? So let them know how you think. So there's no surprises. Seems simple, right? Except it's hard. And again, these are one sentence, one sentence, one sentence, one sentence. All right, we're at 3. We've got 4 more to go, max. This is hard, but it's a good way to edit. If you ever watch any of those reality shows, they're always like, edit, 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 edit. This is your chance professionally to edit yourself so that what you present is the most powerful version of you possible. So we've talked about the problem. We've talked about what the trigger was. Now we've talked about your approach. Now we need to give them the aha. I immediately saw that. I realized that what was at the heart of the problem really, once you dug in, what is it that you saw? That is important because other people need to know that you see problems. And they need to know what kind of problems you see. What was at the heart? What did you learn? What did you discover that took you into your solution, which is sentence 5? Because what are they waiting for? It's like watching a great movie. There's a buildup and a buildup and a buildup, and at some point you've got to give them a release. You have to resolve. So tell them what your solution was. Again, you get one sentence. This was hard. Because you probably get a lot of different things. But at the highest level, at those wave tops, I'll bet there was one big idea you implemented. What was it? What was at a biggest level? What did you do that changed everything? Did you implement a new program? Did you start a new process? Did you add a layer or remove a layer? Did you get rid of doors? Did you take everybody on a vacation? Did you take away titles? What did you do? There's something that you did as a result of the ask, as a result of your observations, and as a result of your problem solving. There was something that you did that changed everything. I implemented this. We began a mentoring program. We started regular meetings. We got rid of 15 of our meetings. Whatever it is that you did, talk about that. Don't explain it. Don't anything. Just this is what we did. And then we have the result. And honestly, that's the juicy part. That's the part people are waiting for. That is the part that says, it's so good. So within X time frame, we had this result. And this is where you get to use numbers. All the way through, I've been talking about just keep it at the big idea, keep it at the big idea, keep it at the big idea. Why? Because we're not going to derail this conversation by getting micro until the end. We're going to stay big. We're going to stay big. We're going to stay big. We're going to get them so excited. And then at the very end, we're going to say within 3 months, we were outperforming the other teams. We're going to say within a year, we were not just meeting, but we were exceeding goal. Within a year, we had reduced turnover to 0. Within a year, we had built capacity to take on 3 new clients. This is where we get micro. This is where we give a number that has both scale and scope. And I want to repeat this again. I need you guys to like, follow, share, and comment. Let me know if you've been seeing this in your own world. But at that very end, those metrics help someone know scale and scope. How many across how much? Why? Why does that matter? I get asked a lot of times, why does that matter? Well, here's why. Because if I need someone to act like a CEO for a global organization, I don't need someone who's only ever run a company of 5. Why? Because if I have a project that is $20 million, I don't need someone who's only ever handled $5,000 worth of work. I need to know that you can handle. Also, conversely, if I've got a tiny little company, I don't need to hire someone who's used to running teams of 500 people to handle 3. He'll run them over. She'll run them over. So that's where people can figure out, can I handle the scale and scope? But we don't present that at the beginning because that's boring. If we start at the beginning, yeah, I can do this and this and this, and then let me tell you the story, you've already put the punchline in front of the lead-in. That's a crappy way to tell a joke. So let's build them up. Let's set the stage. There was a time when. Let's talk about the kind of problems I was asked to. Let's talk about how you look at those problems. The first thing I noticed, the first thing I did. Let's talk about the awareness, the ahas. I realized that we needed to. We uncovered that. Excitement's building. Excitement's building. If you're not excited now, then, actually, no, you just need to be excited now. Just be excited because now we're at the crescendo. So we crest the hill. We talk about what you've done, and it's all downhill from there. Here's the result. We went 60 miles an hour with our hands up in the air and didn't lose a second. That's what people need to know. So again, it's all about relating to what the other person's problem is, and this is how we strip it out. There's an optional 7th sentence that we can add. So that's why I said telling your story in 6 sentences or maybe 7. And so when we talk about it, you thought I was going to give you 2 sentences in any of these sections, but I'm not. If you cannot get each section into 1 sentence, you are overthinking. You are overthinking. Write it on a whiteboard and figure out how to condense it, because I promise you, you can slash and burn 50% of the words easy. Your optional 7th comes into play when you are applying for a job where someone may have difficulty understanding your benefit. When you want to get a project added, when you want a promotion and someone might have difficulty understanding why it's relevant, I call it the bridge to gap. So once you have done all of these lead-ins, once you have already set the stage, once you have identified that scale and scope are in alignment with what this person's problem is, then we bridge the gap and we can say something that showcases how this seems very similar to the problem that you have. I believe that in doing so, I am uniquely positioned to solve your current problem. In doing this, I believe that I really have a depth of understanding of how team dynamics work in a difficult environment. In doing this, I believe that I can work with your global expansion, particularly in countries where we have difficulties in communication and infrastructure. I believe this relates to that. That's sentence 7. And it still is one sentence. So to recap, there's 6 sentences, maybe 7. And when you share an experience, it goes like this. There was a time when I was asked to. The first thing I did was I realized that within this time we had this result, and I believe this experience relates to the problem that you detailed to me. I hope you enjoyed this pit stop. It's a big one. We'll probably revisit it again. Again, I'm Coach McCurdy. I hope you will like, follow, share, and comment on Leadership Highway. We've got so much more to talk about and so many more places to go. So I want you to buckle up. It is a shit show out there, and it is going to be up to you to stay on the road. Thanks.